Good evening. There's been an increase of 24 coronavirus positive cases in India over the last day. This is the story that's on everybody's minds. We have a special show on the spread of the coronavirus with an expert in our studios to answer all of your questions, because we are sure that you will have them. So if you have questions, you can call in and ask our experts. 8377 088377. That is the number you need to call on to speak with our expert, the former president of the Indian Medical Association, in our studios right now, joining us on Skype actually to answer all of your questions. Many worries, many myths doing the rounds around the coronavirus. Let's try and clear the air. Let's spread awareness, not fears on this. Before we get to that, before you can dial in your calls, let me quickly bring you up to date with the latest on this story. The total number of cases, coronavirus positive cases in India has risen to 107. 5 more cases have been reported in Maharashtra. That means the total number of cases is 31. So Maharashtra now stands as the first state or the leading state with coronavirus positive cases. 218 Indians who were stranded in Italy were brought home this morning on a separate flight. 234 Indians who were stranded in Iran returned home this morning. All of them are being quarantined, and the entry of pilgrims at the Kartarpur corridor has been stopped. And earlier this evening, Prime Minister Modi led SAARC nations in a video conference to chalk out a joint strategy to take on the coronavirus.
Prepare, but do not panic has been our guiding mantra. We have increased our public awareness campaigns on TV, print and social media. We have made special efforts to reach out to vulnerable groups. We have worked to quickly ramp up capacity in our system, including through training our medical staff across the country. We have also increased diagnostic capabilities. Within 2 months, we moved from one major facility for pan-India testing to more than 66 such labs, and we have developed protocols for each stage of managing this pandemic. For screening at entry points, contact tracing of suspected cases, quarantine and management of isolation facilities, and for discharge of cleared cases. We also responded to the call of our people abroad. We evacuated nearly 1,400 Indians from different countries. We also similarly helped some of the citizens of our neighboring countries. We have now built a protocol for such evacuations, including carrying out testing by our mobile teams deployed abroad. We recognize that other countries would be also concerned about their citizens in India. So, we briefed foreign ambassadors about the steps we were taking. Excellencies, we fully recognize that we are still in an unknown situation. We cannot predict with certainty how the situation will unfold despite our best efforts.
All right, prepare, don't panic. That has been our guiding mantra. We have to avoid knee-jerk reactions, as said Prime Minister Modi as he addressed and led that plan to get SAARC nations to come together to take on the coronavirus. And that's exactly what we want to do. Don't panic, don't avoid knee-jerk reactions. And so we have joining us Dr. K.K. Agarwal, former president of the Indian Medical Association, to do just that. We have a caller, Nelson from Kolkata, has a question for you, Dr. Agarwal. Go ahead, Nelson.
Good evening, Dr. Agarwal, and good evening, Sarah.
Good evening.
Actually, I have a very basic question. Since this is an unknown factor that's happening right now in our country and our nation, and we have examples of all over the world. India, we live in clusters, we live in societies, we live in communities. What is the safest thing that we must do, in terms of just for the people, the common man, what should we do as we grow up in clusters and communities? What should be our behavior?
So the answer is very simple. You remember that we have the largest cluster when we have Magh month, we have a Mela, and we don't have a single case of diarrhea. If India has mass cluster, then India also has the capacity to follow precautions. And in this case, there is only one single precaution, and that is if you have fever with cough, wear a mask. That's all. Social distancing is only for people who are having fever and cough. If all of us can become conscious that we are not going to ignore fever with cough, we should be able to manage the condition. That's one. Number two is, remember, if you have simple cough, it's pollution. If you have a fever with cold, it's allergy. If you have fever with cold and cough, then it's flu. So simple cough, pollution. Simple cough and cold is allergy. Fever with cold and cough is flu. And fever with cough and breathlessness is corona-like symptoms. So therefore, all persons in the country, if they have fever and they have dry cough with or without breathlessness, if they self-isolate themselves and wear a mask, 97% of them will recover. Only 3 will require hospitalization and oxygen therapy. So therefore, message is only one. People with fever and cough, and give them a mask.
Well, I hope people are listening to this message, because we've had so many cases where people who have been tested and were showing symptoms have tried to escape from authorities, get to airports. There was one flight in Kerala today in Kochi that had to be held back. All of the 270 passengers on board that flight had to be taken off. It eventually took off after holding back 20 passengers. We have a caller, Hafsa, joining us from Chennai. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, doctor. We have heard that this Ayurvedic medicine like Gaumutra will cure the coronavirus. Is this true, sir?
So glad you asked this question, Hafsa. Go ahead, doctor.
Whenever we go through any treatment has to be time-tested. It has to be evidence-based. At this moment, the Drug Controller General of India has approved only 2 drugs which are also used for HIV. Government also says that they are also giving anti-flu medicine in such cases. Chloroquine has to be decided on an individual basis. Regarding all other therapies as on today, Ayurveda, homeopathy, naturopathy, we have now evidence all over the world that these medicines are effective. If Gomutra comes out to be a cure for corona, then that person who does a trial should get a Nobel Prize. These may be good. People who have faith in Gomutra, kindly drink it. But we cannot recommend it for a general public that you should take this or you should do that. Whenever there is an epidemic and a pandemic, a government standard protocol has to be followed across the country.
And on a more serious note, doctor, would you recommend the flu shot?
Yes, absolutely. All patients who are high risk, elderly, should take a flu shot and a pneumonia shock. The reason being, if you develop corona, and if this corona you recover, during corona your immunity will become low. Your chances of acquiring pneumococcal infection is very high. ऐसा ना हो कि flu से बचे और pneumonia से मरे. Therefore, elderly people must take pneumococcal vaccine.
Good point. All right, Prasad from Bangalore, go ahead with your question.
Good evening. My question is regarding travel in general. And in my particular case, I had planned to take my kids on a trek to Nepal. Now, while travel by itself is risky, but let's say people have to go to their office, for example, in a metro, right? So what is the risk of somebody contracting the disease, let's say, in air travel, vis-a-vis contracting it, let's say, in a metro or in a bus in a city? My question is, should we absolutely avoid travel or take the risk, because any which way there is a risk of contracting, even while going to office as well?
No, there is a difference in the risk. Let's say air travel. In air travel, your first risk is in Indian immigration. You have thousands of people on the airport. Then you go to the plane. The risk in the plane is minimal because of the lamination air, and the type of a risk within the plane is lower. Now, suppose you are coming from Dubai, which is UAE. UAE itself is a large country, but they have only 60 cases. But people coming from Dubai to India are developing it. So are they developing it in UAE or UAE airport? I feel the airports are more at danger than the country. The reason being, in the airport, you get visitors and travelers from all across the world who are not getting down at Dubai. And in UAE and in an airport, you are getting a humidified temperature, which is with cold. That means it's a 24 hours air conditioned, and surfaces are not being cleaned. So I personally feel with the statistics available across the world, the airports are more at risk than the country. I'm currently the president of Confederation of Medical Association of Asia and Oceania. And on 18th of January, way back, we had a meeting with Thailand Medical Association, Malaysia Medical Association, China Medical Association, and Myanmar Medical Association, much before it entered India. And at that time, we discussed out that airports are much more at risk. Now, if you go to a metro, if metro is humidified and cold and localized, you carry a risk. But in a metro, you are staying there maximum for a half an hour. But if you are sitting in a cinema hall for 3 hours with air conditioned and humidified temperature, your chances may be much higher. So it depends upon how long you are staying. As far as the airline is concerned, remember, even you cannot get a tuberculosis, which is much more contagious, in an airplane unless you sit for 8 hours, because in a plane you have a laminar flow which protects you.
All right, fascinating, Dr. Agarwal. Huge learnings coming out of this discussion. Let's try and squeeze in 2 more callers. Colonel Kalra from Gurugram. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, doctor. Good evening, Sarah. I am Colonel Kalra. I am a cancer survivor. And army has treated me and I am out of the cancer now. But for the past 1 year and 3 months, I am having cough, leaking nose. At times, I get fever also. The medicines I am taking is, I am taking inhaler, 2 puffs, nasal drops, Montero LP, and vitamin C. What is what is it actually? I want to know. Thank you.
So all cancer survivors must protect themselves from flu and pneumonia.
Yeah.
Remember, a philosophy and a philosophical answer. Every 2 months, there is a Ritu change. Whenever there is a change in the season, transiently our immunity gets low and we try to acquire a seasonal viral infection, which is probably you are getting. And if you are getting repeatedly flu infection, which will be a different strain of flu, you take general precautions. At this moment, unless there is a history of travel or a contact with a person who has traveled outside and presence of cold in this case, you are not likely to be suffering from corona at the moment. Remember, nasal stuffiness and nasal discharge and sneezing is seen only in 4% cases of corona illness.
All right, but all cancer survivors, of course, have to guard against any kind of cold, cough, flu, etc. Do I have time to squeeze in caller number 5, Nitin? Nitin, go ahead.
Sir, this is Nitin from Kalburgi, from where the first death was reported.
Go ahead, Nitin.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have 3 questions, sir. Basically, the district administration has put up travel advisories here that you are not supposed to come outside. How legit is it? Like, are we supposed to not travel outside at all unless the need be? Second question is... Yeah. So second question is regarding what kind of immunity boosters we can give for kids beyond 5 years or 6 years old, so that they'll become more immune to any other flu or any other scare. So and the third question is regarding some speculation being put out in some kind of WhatsApp groups regarding consuming alcohol to, kind of get rid of this thing. So few people say, I'm going to do something good. So
I will come back to your third question first. Yesterday only WHO has come out with a warning that stop watching WhatsApp messages which are not authentic. They says it can cause anxiety and anxiety in people. Only watch authentic and don't forward any message where there is name of a person, phone number of a person, or a link of a website. So unless it is linked to a person, don't forward. Number two is regarding a travel. Now there are different phases of an epidemic. So in Karnataka, where a death has occurred, a patient from one hospital to sent to another hospital came back to the same hospital. So therefore, there is a suspicion that you may not be dealing with a community spread. In such a case-to-case basis, state-to-state basis, they may ask you to quarantine and self-isolate for a week. This may not be permanent. Regarding immunity developing, it's normal, not for corona. Every patient should eat a combination of 7 color and 6 taste and maintain his or her immunity to fight any infection.
Correct.
Regarding children, remember, less than 9 years of age, mortality rate is 0. In fact, up to 40 years of age,
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. As you point out, in this age where we are constantly bombarded with these WhatsApp forwards that just lead to more stress and anxiety, it has been hugely refreshing to have you on the show. We will bring you more of Dr. Agarwal every day, 6 p.m. We have a call-in show. You can call us with your questions, your concerns, your fears. We will put them across to our panel of experts. Thank you, Dr. Agarwal, specifically today for joining us. Thank you. Let's go in for a short break.